and thank you so much for being here today. My name is Eva Gorny, and I'm here to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is philanthropy. Now, as an up-and-coming teacher, and as someone who really believes in youth empowerment, I'm here to tell you that philanthropy isn't just for those of us who are adults, for those of us who are kind of growing into the world, but it's also for our youth. And I will even make the point that it is more important to incorporate our youth in philanthropy than for us to be there, because they are the up-and-comers. They are the future leaders of this world, and they are the ones whose ideas and thoughts and values are really capable of making change. So philanthropy, for those of you who may not know, is defined as an act or instance of altruistic concern for human welfare and advancement. Pretty broad base, pretty standard definition, but what it's saying is that when we look at a situation and we find the common good in it and we do something to better that without necessarily thinking about ourselves. Altruism at its core says that we care a little bit more about someone else or a group of other people than we care about ourselves. And that's not meant to be a negative thing. That's something that fosters community and growth. Usually you can see this is achieved through donations, whether that's monetary, work, property, endowments, or it can even be general social generosity. That's smiling at someone when you're at the mall, or giving someone a hug on a bad day, or doing those random acts of kindness that a lot of our schools are starting to incorporate. It's very simple, it's very easily done, and it has the power to change the world. Now you see in this slide that there are many hands holding up this globe. And this is related to philanthropy in two ways. Number one, each of those hands represents a different set of values and a different set of beliefs. Each of those individual hands has a different idea on how to change the world. But the other thing that it represents is that each one of those hands couldn't hold up that globe alone. As humans, we are not meant to be alone. We're social creatures. We forge relationships and friendships, we build communities, and with other people, we find comfort and strength and a lot of empowerment. Personally, through my service experiences, I have built some of the best friendships I will ever have. I met my incredible fiance by joining a service club that he joined to. My best friends are the type of friends that do good work with me, that volunteer with me. And they're the friends that share my values. They're the friends that I can always go to. They're the friends that will make you your amazing cards when you're presenting at TED and give them to you, just to give you a little bit of a smile and make your day a little bit brighter and give you the courage to come up here and speak about something that you believe in. Why wouldn't we want individuals in our world, and specifically our youth, to forge these friendships with people who share their values, with people who empower them, with people who have the ability to lift them up and give them the opportunity to lift other people up and kind of pay this model forward. Now, according to Statistics Canada, we have over 160,000 nonprofit organizations and charities in our country. Our volunteer sector is the second largest in the world, second only to the Netherlands. Obviously, this is a huge deal, and obviously we're doing something right by having so much of this goodness in Canada. Over 12 million people every year participate in the volunteer sector. That is over 1/3 of our population, and that's huge. So what? So why do we need to add people to this? Why do we need to tell our students that they need to help out, they need to volunteer, that this is something that's good for them? Well, there are a lot of benefits for students. And I'm going to share a little bit of an anecdote with you before I get into what all of the benefits are. When I was 15 years old, I lost my mom to cancer. This was a huge blow in my life, but it was also a huge turning point for me, because I realized that maybe the world is a little bit bigger than junior high school, that there are more things that happen than, oh my gosh, I got 80 on this test instead of 100, or oh my gosh, this girlfriend is mad at me. I realized that the world is a very big place with a lot of different things that happen. And I also realized that I cared. I didn't want other children to go through what I had to go through. And I made the conscious effort to achieve that, to make sure that no other child had to go through the things that I went through. So I looked at different cancer fighting organizations and decided that I wanted to join the Cancer Society and do the Relay for Life. At 15 years old, I had people laugh at me. I had people look at me and say, "What can you possibly do? You're a little kid." Let me tell you, when someone says that to me, it doesn't knock me down, it just inspires me to show them what I truly can do. And that is an attitude I want to inspire in other people as well. So instead of getting downhearted and saying, "Oh, you're right, I'm just a kid," I put together a team of my friends, and in under 2 months we raised $2,000. And we came back the next year and we raised more money. And we came back the next year and we did the same thing. And we grew our team and it changed dynamics. And then I realized, this is fun, but what else can I do? So I decided to join the committee. I went and talked to the staff members and they were like, oh yeah, for sure, come join our committee. So I sat on the committee for a number of years and I did team retention and recruitment, working with other teams, coaching them, showing them, here's what Relay is all about, here's what you might want to do with it, here's the different opportunities you have for fundraising, and so on. And then from there I thought, this is also great, but what else can I do? And because I was so youth-focused, and because I really wanted to make a difference for students, I launched a youth relay at the University of Lethbridge. Now this is something I modeled after Ontario, but it was the first of its kind in Western Canada. And it was a relay for the students of the students, made entirely of students. We raised over $21,000 last year. And this year it was a little bit smaller, but we raised $14,000. That goes to show that youth can make a difference. And when we drop that down another level, I know these were university students, but if we look at our high school students and our junior high students, even our elementary school students, they have these capabilities. They want to make this positive change, and it's up to us to inspire them. Adding to this, why we should talk to students. It's no secret that in this day and age, the millennials, the students that are growing up right now, are part of the digital age. They are the ones that have grown up with the internet, that have cell phones and iPads and iPods, and that's a big deal. They are connected to the entire world with the click of one button. If you want to look up Ghana or Nepal or France or Poland or some other nation, you type it into Google and it's there for you. All the information you could possibly want. These are huge benefits because these are tools at our disposal to use for service work. Without the internet, I hate to say it, but I don't think a lot of what we do could happen because we've gotten so used to it, and that's okay because it is this incredible resource that we should be using while we have it available to us. Now, another reason that we should incorporate students, and this is a quote from Sir Ken Robinson, who is one of my very favorite individuals. But he talks about students and he talks about kids, and he says that they will take a chance. If they don't know, they'll have a go, and they are not afraid of failing. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you will never come up with anything original. I often feel that as we approach adulthood, we become a little bit complacent in this. We are taught so much that everything has to be perfect, and we are taught that we have to do everything right the first time, and we become so afraid of trying something new at the risk of failing. Well, students don't have that yet. They haven't reached all of those lessons. They haven't learned that it's not okay to fail. It's okay to try something new and risk failing. Because what do you learn from failure? Well, this didn't work, but this did. Maybe I can expand on this. Maybe this part didn't work, but I can try something new here. It's incredible what students will come up with if you ask them. They have original ideas. They will come up and they will say, I want to do this, let me do it. Whereas we will come up with an idea and think, okay, so I want to build this school in this nation. What's my risk management? What are my resources? What are my materials? What's my work power? How many hours is this going to take? What are my communications? How do I get there? How do I do this? And before we've taken a breath, we're already so afraid of this idea that it never comes to fruition because of all of the things holding us back. Am I saying that these things are not important? Absolutely not. You cannot run a successful service project without thinking about all of these things. But what we lose often is that at the forefront is achieving that common good and achieving the goal we have in mind. And that is what we need to focus on, and I think that is where youth becomes so important. Okay, great. So we have these students, and we want to inspire them. But what do they get out of it? What's the good? Obviously, when we take on philanthropy and we use altruism in our value system, we're not looking to get something out of it in return. We do something for the greater good without thinking about ourselves. But there's no shame in the fact that you learn as you go, and you gain experiences as you go. And intrinsically, it makes you a better person whether you realize it or not. You learn a lot of different things, you improve your value system, and you start to see the world as a bigger place. Now, speaking specifically to students, this grows classroom community. And this is a huge idea. Because students, when they go to school, should not be afraid. They should not be worried about bullying, or not getting 100% on a test, or dropping a pencil and disrupting class and being this utter failure because they can't do anything right. That's ridiculous. If we teach our students that it's okay to stand up for one another and it's okay to help one another out and take risks and be wrong sometimes because you're right other times. One student who will stand up for another student keeps standing up for other students. But that student that was stood up for will take that model and say, hey, maybe I can do this. And they'll stand up for someone else. And before you know it, you have this classroom of amazing students who support each other, who care about each other, and don't really care if they ask the stupid question because it's their learning. They care. It's an incredible system. We also inspire global citizenship with our students. Now, I already talked about how students are connected with the world and how truly they have everything at their fingertips. But I also often think that we're kind of in a bubble. We live here in Canada, and as much as we research other parts of the world and the things that go on, we still have all of these extravagant needs. I need a cell phone, I need a car, I need this crazy technological device, I need an Xbox game if kids still play Xbox. They don't necessarily think of needs as food or water or shelter or education, I would argue, as a basic need of life. And so showing students these opportunities really broadens their horizons, and it allows them to make connections with other parts of the world. Now, there's a student who you might know, and her name is Samantha Terry. And she is from southern Alberta, and when she was in grade school, she heard about students in Nepal who didn't have school. They couldn't go to school, they didn't have books, they couldn't learn. And she was so saddened by that because she loves school. And so she took these children to school. It's that simple. We make those connections. She came up with an idea, and it came to fruition. She saw other like her that didn't have the same things she had, and on the right level, those basic, she made that happen. Inspire in our students. We also give them a sense of responsibility. When we empower students, when we empower our youth to create these positive changes, we give them the reins, in a sense. We give them the power to do something that maybe they haven't done before. And they learn as they go through it, and they grow as they go through it. And they see that you can't just fool around all the time, that sometimes you have serious work to do. And sometimes you have to care. I would argue that a lot of the time you have to care. It teaches them to do just this. It teaches them to care. And it also takes that thought out of self, I think. It shows them that, sometimes it's more important to care about other people. And, your needs are coming along, but maybe someone else's aren't. And you should give them the chance to have the same needs that you do. Life skills. This is huge. And this comes inevitably from every aspect of service work and philanthropy. Whether this is simple leadership skills, being able to stand up in front of a room of people and tell them your ideas, or time management, resource management, using things that you have at your disposal for the greater good and not wasting, things like that, teaching them to cooperate, teaching them to work in groups, because we're not alone. We live in a huge country with so many other people. Why wouldn't we want to work with them? Why wouldn't we want to grow with them? And this just touches the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things that students learn from service work. And on a final note, I really believe that philanthropy is good for the soul. And I do not want this to sound preachy or religious in any sense, because I don't believe in imposing beliefs on other people. But what I mean by good for the soul is for any of you who have ever done an act of service, whether it was something small, that's smiling at a stranger, or something grandiose, like building a school in another nation, or sending food, or shelter, or anything like that, you get this warm, fuzzy feeling inside of you. Yeah? You know what I'm talking about? That really good feeling that you get that makes you feel like you've made a difference. And whether you've made a difference in one person's life or 1,000 lives, that feeling never changes. It's always there, and it is contagious, because once you feel it once, you want to keep feeling it. You want to keep helping other people, because it makes you feel good too. And that's not meant to be selfish, but it's meant to be inspiring. That one good act leads to another. And by creating this kind of a model, I really do think our world would be a better place. And so to end off, I want to leave you with a quote, and this is one of my favorites. And I urge you to take this with you, internalize it, and put it into play in your lives. And teach it to your children, teach it to your students, the youth that you have, whether you're coaching or running an organization or, just in your community. But go into the world and do well. But more importantly, go into the world and do good. Thank you.